And a good morning to you all, and welcome to the starting lineup. Great to have you with us on an absolutely beautiful Friday in the Ozarks. A bit of a change in the starting lineup today. I'm Ned Reynolds, along with
Dwight Glenn
and Guy Newcomb.
We're going down now to the AAA order of things, I guess.
Hey, you're a part of that team, Ned.
I'm the AA part.
Hey, at least I got your mic on.
Scott Perger not with us today, but you are, and that's the important thing. And for the next 2 hours, we are right here talking sports and whatever. And like eventually to hear from you, the area code, of course, you all know is 417. The number is 447-1021. And that is not only the phone number, it is the text line as well. Excuse me a second. So if, in fact, you wish to text us or phone us, hey, the choice is yours. We'd be more than happy to hear from you and or read your text. Starting lineup brought to you by Played Again Sports in the Fremont Shopping Center, Battlefield in Fremont, Springfield. Great weekend. Well, any time is a great day or period of time to visit Played Again Sports, because they have everything you could possibly want. Every sports item right down there at Played Again Sports, and that includes team uniforms, folks. They have them right there in the Fremont Shopping Center. Citizens Bank of Rogersville, which has two routes, that's what they call their branches, routes. One is located adjacent to Highland Springs, and the other is in Rogersville itself. Swing Right Golf, which is located at the lower end of Campbell Avenue, about a little bit north of Nixa. Do you go there, Dwight? Do you go to?
I've been there in the past. It's a nice facility. They've got, you can also do miniature golf. They have simulator. They have batting cages. So it's kind of family entertainment for not just golfers.
That's what you need, folks. Great place to spend some time at Swing Right Golf. And Marshfield Chevrolet, also a great place to spend some time at the exit at Marshfield off I-44, and then a couple of left turns, and you're there at Marshfield Chevrolet. Great to have you with us, and a pretty good lineup of guests coming up today. Mr. Newcomb is in running the show today, and you're going to be first in the batting order today.
I am. Coming up, I'm going to talk a little high school stuff at 7:30. We've got Dead Week, which a lot of schools, they'll start tomorrow, August 1st. They'll be dead through August 9th, and everything opens up on the 10th.
When you talk about that, is that a period of time when the coaches cannot have any contact, things like that?
Yep, they have zero contact with any of their athletes. So kind of gives them a week off. And I talked to Nate Thomas yesterday because I was trying to get him on for next week. He goes, dude, I'm going to the Bahamas. I walked off the field at SBU from camp. I'm done. Until the 10th.
Out of here. And then we also have at 8 o'clock, I want you to preview that a little bit.
Major League Trade Rumors, MLBTradeRumors.com. We'd visited with Jeff Todd here numbers of years ago, and I kind of reestablished that connection. And Dar McDonald is going to come on with us. He's out of Toronto, and he does some national shows, but kind of leading into trade rumors. The trade deadline is Monday at 5 o'clock here locally, I believe.
That is right.
And so he's going to kind of give us an update. And there's already been some movement, a little bit.
Mostly, I think you mostly can classify it as minor play, and that's not to denigrate the players at all, but these are minor, not headline deals. The big one, the big plum, is Tariq Skubal and where he goes, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. And then at 8:30, because of the big event that's going on over at Missouri State this weekend, we have
Paige Grisham will join us about the Sneaker Soiree coming up this weekend. It's I believe the 40th annual. Coming up as well.
That doesn't seem possible. 40th annual. I remember so fully well when it started. It was called, they had a name for it back then. They called it the Ozarks Biggest Garage Sale. And they had it over in Old Hammond Center. This is long before what is now the Great Southern Bank Arena was even built. And big crowds of people, everybody showed up. It's a very necessary fundraiser for the athletic departments, and you put it plural, not just one, but the athletic departments at Missouri State University. Hey, it takes money. Dwight, you know that.
Everything takes money, and the current environment with NIL, that money almost has to be thought of as separate. You still have to have money to take all of these teams on the road for hotels. You're feeding these people, 2 meals, 3 meals a day. All of that adds up, especially when you take a football team. How many are they traveling with now, Ned? Probably 120?
I don't know. I don't think it's quite that. I don't know. Maybe the entire.
Yeah, I'm talking with coaches, athletic director, whoever else makes the trip.
And things like that.
Right, and you're happy to spend money to do that. So what they do with this, used to be the garage sale. Now it's a sneaker soiree. They're basically auctioning items off. They're fundraising for Missouri State University, who probably need the funds now more than ever just to be competitive in Conference USA.
Look at and you bring up a very interesting point. Not just association with the conference, but the travel schedule. My God, you're going from Las Cruces, New Mexico to Newark, Delaware, and with a stop in Miami, a stop in Georgia, north of Atlanta, Kennesaw State. I mean, it's all over the place.
You've talked about this for years. You're either way ahead of the game or way behind it. I never know with
Mostly
you, Ned.
behind, yes.
But you have said forever that eventually there's just going to be one, especially in Division one major conference with probably 20 to 40 people, and then it'll be everybody else. Can you see that day coming faster?
It is morphing into that, yes. I can see that whole circumstance dissolving into that. And is that necessarily good? Well, it is probably for the TV networks, but certainly not for the fans. The thing that really bothers me, and I think bothers the college officials at the lower level, is the plan by SEC to go to 9 conference games, because that takes away a little bit of the paydays that teams like Missouri State would have, like they have this year, going down to College Station, Texas, and playing the opener for Texas A&M, and like they did last year, going out to Los Angeles. These are not just throwaway games, gang. That's a big moneymaker for Missouri State and whomever the other colleges happen to be.
People may not realize, if they listen to the show, they do, but if they are just tuning in or are not familiar with these payday games, that's probably about $1.5 million or $2 million coming into Missouri State's coffers just for going down to Texas A&M. Now, 9 times out of 10, are you going to take a beating? Yes, you are, but you're playing up. You're exposing your players in markets that you're trying to recruit from, because Missouri State's trying to recruit from Texas. So if you can say, hey, in 2 years we're going to be playing Texas A&M, your family can come see you at Kyle Field. Is that not a selling point?
Furthermore, it is the Bears' first trip down to Texas. They take another one, 3 weeks later when they go to play Southern Methodist in Dallas. So, indeed, these are key games from the monetary standpoint.
It's the other thing. I know it frustrates you. It frustrates me to a certain extent. But every game is televised. Every baseball game, every basketball game, every football game. But part of that is because to be competitive in Conference USA, you want to tell mom and dad that they're going to be able to watch their kid play if they're not able to come to a game, especially on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday night, which is when a lot of the Conference USA football games are scheduled.
In October. That's exactly right. Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday night. I don't remember where the Bears are. I think on a Wednesday, and maybe Tuesday, whatever it is. Those 3 days are set aside by the TV network. It's ESPN. Who wants the games at midweek, and why not? There's nothing else going on. The NFL, was it 2 years ago, had games Tuesday through Monday. Is that what it was? No, Tuesday was the night off, so it was
every night of the week except
Wednesday through Monday, right? Mm-hmm.
The one thing they're trying to get nicer facilities, at Plaster Stadium. They're wanting to create suites. They're trying to up the level of the football experience over there. But to me, it's a lot harder to try to sell 15 to 18,000 tickets on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday than it is on a Saturday afternoon or evening.
You were there. As a matter of fact, you were out at center field for the coin toss when the Bears played Southern Methodist up here. And folks, I can't emphasize, that was a very big game because it was the first time that a headline major college team came here to Springfield to play. And my hat's off to the folks at SMU to allow their team to come up here. And, hey, Bears gave a pretty competitive football game. But you remember, and I know you do, how hot it was that day.
But it's going to be hot that time of year, Ned. I mean, but at the same point, the atmosphere there was not one that I ever experienced as a student. That see 14,000, it should have been a sellout, but I also understand why it wasn't. But 14 to 15,000 people, a lot of whom had probably never been to a Missouri State football game.
And got a good education, good awakening from it because the Bears played well. Matter of fact, had a 10-0 lead at one time. So, yeah, upsets are not impossible. They are very rare, as you know. But the Appalachian State going to Michigan and beating them, that doesn't happen every day. In fact, it doesn't happen any time in the century.
When you have a North Dakota or North Dakota State, when you're the two biggest things in North Dakota, and you're dominating the lower level, albeit not the bowl level, of SCS. Why would you want to move up? Is it all money?
Yes, because you do run into the opportunity, I think, from the TV networks to gain a little bit of revenue from doing that. North Dakota State, which is going Mountain West now, they'll be pretty good. Sacramento State, which is also was in their previous conference. No, I'm sorry, they were not. They were Big Sky. Sacramento State's now Mid-American Conference. So, yeah, they see the opportunities from TV and the exposure and the money's forthcoming from it. But that's all conversation for another day. We talked a little bit about the starting five, which is our top stories. And I'll tell you what, let's do first, and that is concentrate a little bit on baseball because the stories are rather shaky, as a matter of fact. Cardinals went to try to split the series. The Chicago Cubs did not do so. For the second straight game going into the 10th inning, and for the second straight game seeing the Cubs take a two-run lead. In this case, it was 4-2. On Wednesday night, Chicago made the comeback. Or the St. Louis, I should say, made the comeback and got the win, but it didn't happen yesterday.
Are we seeing Bob Nightingale called this, about 6 weeks ago? I guess he's Carnac Nightingale now. He said that eventually the Cardinals would be shown who they really are based on their relief pitching, meaning lack thereof, and their lineup just lacks a little bit of consistent punch. They'll have a game where they'll score 7 runs, but the last time they did that against the Diamondbacks, they gave that lead up, and it seems to me like that really turned the worm.
Lost it 8-7, as a matter of fact. Arizona came from behind and won it. I remember a game, and I think it was the 4th of July weekend, if I'm not mistaken. The Cardinals got 17 runs, I think it was, against the Chicago Cubs. And I remember telling folks, hey, that looks great. It's going to come back to haunt them. And it has.
Right. It's going to be interesting. We know they're sellers, but who is there to sell?
Dustin May would be the one. We do have that segment coming up at 8 o'clock when we do have an individual who's coming on, Dara McDonald, who is going to talk a little bit about the trade deadline.
But as disappointing as that loss was, there was one other in the state of Missouri yesterday that was much more disappointing.
And that was the Kansas City Royals. That is your quintessential gut punch. If you ever heard about some team or individual taking a vicious gut punch, put things in context, this was it. And Guy, the home run in the 9th inning that won him for the Twins, is a one and only.
It is. That's the first time in Major League Baseball history that grand slam, walk-off grand slam in the bottom of the 9th with an 0-2 count has ever happened.
And the Twins are behind 3-0.
Yep.
And it's a grand slam and they win the game with one hit. Cody Clemens. I mean, oh my goodness sake, how can you rebound from something like that?
7 times in that inning, they had 2 strikes and could have got out of it. I mean, and they bring in Urseg. Now, Noah Cameron, he'd thrown 97 pitches, but he had a no-hitter into the 7th. This is July. This is as good as he's ever going to feel. He's had a rough season. Let him get the complete game shutout. I just don't understand. It's all analytics. Somebody from upstairs is looking at a binder or something like that, and they call down, put Urseg in, and he gets the first 2 guys out. And I don't know at what point, and maybe listeners, at what point in that 9th inning do you start thinking, Urseg hits the next guy, then he walks and he gets up to soft single, then he walks the guy, bases are loaded, and then here comes the Strom that broke the camel's back, so to speak.
And he threw exactly 3 pitches, and the third one left the ballpark. Cody Clemens, you got to looking a little bit of the history. First of all, Cody Clemens is Roger Clemens' son. And I think it's 3 other brothers, if I'm not mistaken. The first letter of all their names is K. And you wonder, well, this is bizarre. No, it's not either. There's a reason why it's K, and that is, what's the symbol for a strikeout on the scorecard?
It's a K, the backwards or frontwards.
So Cody Clemens and a grand slam walk-off in the 9th inning, and the Royals lose at 4-3. Boy, Royals play the Colorado Rockies in Denver this week. There's a battle of titans right there.
I think the ratings will not be very high for that, Ned. And the Cardinals are going up to Toronto. It's going to be interesting to see if Toronto's not sold a bunch of their talent off by Monday.
If, in fact, they've made the decision to hang it up, and they probably have because they've had a really dismal year. This is a team that was in the World Series this year, and here they are, really scuffling. So you make a very good point. They could be. And our guest, and Guy, you correct me if I'm wrong, Dara McDonald.
Dora.
Doran McDonald is doing it from Toronto.
Yeah, he is from Toronto. I don't know if he's in Toronto, but he is from Toronto, yes.
Well, we'll find out from an individual who has a really direct source to what goes on. We'll take a time out here on the starting lineup. Great to have you with us. Don't go away. More coming up. Thanks for joining us on the starting lineup, and great to have you with us. I'm Ned Reynolds, along with
Dwight Glenn.
Guy Newcomb.
And indeed, we invite your calls at 417, that's the area code, of course, 447-1021. Give us your thoughts on the current sports scene. Now, we were into the starting five and talking a little bit about baseball and the Cardinals and the Royals, both of whom had dismal showings yesterday. The competitive games, certainly, but hey, each Missouri team had a chance to win. But other than that, the football scene, the training camps going on. Incidentally, guys, the first exhibition game is coming up this coming week, and it's on Thursday night. It's the Hall of Fame game. A mighty clash between the Arizona Cardinals and the Carolina Panthers.
And yet you'll have 5 million people watching it. I mean, it's football is the national pastime now. It has surpassed baseball, and people, anxiously await that. And right now, all the sporting networks, they need content. That's why you see some of the things that they're airing right now. That's why Little League World Series has become such an important part of ESPN's lineup in the summer, because this is kind of a dead time for sports until we get to college and regular NFL season games.
And interestingly enough, you mentioned the college game. Everybody thinks, well, it's early September, Labor Day weekend, and so forth. It starts before then. It actually starts in very late August. There's a game in Dublin, maybe the Irish Airlines Classic or something like that. And this year, I think it's North Carolina, and I must admit I've forgotten who it is, but it's an ACC matchup over in Dublin, Ireland, Dublin Classic or something like that. But there are other games as well. A couple of Conference USA teams open up in the latter part of August as well. So we're closing in on it, and you can see this. The individuals who operate the money-making levels of sports are saying, we better advance this season a little bit more because there's a dead period in there when people are losing interest.
There's something that's going to happen this year that I think we all hoped would never happen, and I thought there was actually a national law against it, but there's going to be some major college football games on Friday nights, which that used to be taboo because that was, to protect all the high school football.
They brought it in maybe 10, 15 years ago to do that, and I think it's a really poor idea because it was the high school's day. So what the NFL does on Saturdays until the college football, until the Army-Navy game, there is no pro football on Saturday or Friday for that matter. But now they've changed that as well.
Well, it didn't used to be NFL football games on Christmas Day. That was the NBA's day, literally, and now NFL has basically taken it over.
Like in one fell swoop when the Kansas City Chiefs came in there and played that Christmas Day game. Who is it? What is the game?
It's North Carolina TCU.
Oh, that's Texas Christian. That's right. It's and that is in Dublin, and that's what date? August 29th?
August 29th.
Okay, so that is a major Division I college football game. There are others that are in there, are there not?
Yeah, on the 29th, USC plays, and then North Carolina, Virginia, Jacksonville State, and North Dakota State, Sacramento State, and Eastern Michigan. And
that's interesting. Jacksonville State and North Dakota State. Back in the old days, that was an FCS power matchup. Now it's D1, North Dakota State having gone D1, and that may be their first, not maybe, it will be their first D1 football game, and they're playing Jack State, and Jack State is no pushover, believe me. They're playing in Fargo?
Yes.
At the Fargo Dome up there. That's interesting. And that's also the 29th?
Yes, sir.
And so there really is your big day sneaking in on us.
Well, it will be here before we know it. Just saying, we're going to talk to Guy in the next segment. I think it's very, very smart that high schools are still doing that dead week just to allow the coaches and people's families with kids to have one last chance to celebrate the summer before it gets to be a very busy time of year.
And it will be. Very busy time with games. Most of the games, incidentally, Guy, do they have, I should maybe hold this question for later, but do they ever play on Thursday nights now?
Oh, yeah. The opening week, they'll play on the 27th.
There's the answer.
And isn't the part of that, though, due to the lack of referees?
Yes.
Are they still not having enough referees to go around with all of the, there's been a number of smaller schools that have added football, and there's 8-man football, so it takes a lot of referees to call that many games.
Do I assume correctly that there is no specific delineation between refereeing at 8-man football and 11-man football.
Still the same amount of referees, yes.
And those officials they can go between the two games.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes.
That's interesting. So it says work for everybody in the striped shirts. Which leads us to the next one. The Officials Association is always looking for new officials and so forth and so on. And that's not just football. Basketball and baseball and volleyball and all the others. If you're interested in doing that, there is availability for you. Anyway, we talked a little bit about the baseball and the football scene. Kansas City Chiefs going through their drills. Their first game is August the 15th. That's a Saturday afternoon up in Kansas City against the Rams. The golf tour is going on. This is the Rocket Classic, and it's in Detroit. Again, I call it a minor tournament. It's a $10 million purse, and there's nothing minor about that. But most of the big-name golfers are honing their skills and getting ready for the FedEx competition, which begins in 2 weeks. Leads us to the leader of the Detroit Classic, or the Rocket Classic. Do you see who it is?
Peter Malnati?
It's Malnado.
Malnati,
I think.
Malnati, yeah, it ends in a TI, but it's very hard to say. And, he had set the front 9 record. I think he was 8 under after 9 holes.
And the course record he tied at 9 under 61. So I've never heard of Peter Malnati. Well, he's also not a kid. He's 39 years old. He's obviously thinking that maybe he can get enough points to... He's
trying to save his card, is what you're saying.
What it is,
yeah. You have to be in the top 100 to get your PGA Tour card for the next year. He's not even concerned right now about getting into the FedEx playoffs. He's trying to have a job next year. And next year is going to be interesting. It's going to be the last year before they transition to this new format. And there's a lot of speculation that the Korn Ferry Tour may dissolve because it's going to be 2 different tours on the PGA Tour. You're going to have your top 70 like you have with these elevated events called the, I believe, Champions Division and then the Contenders Division. And that's going to be at fields of 120 to 140 people.
You think, and you're into golf, do you think there's a chance that the Korn Ferry may go under? They've said it's going to continue.
I think it's going to be, I think you even said this the other day, or Scott did. I think right now we consider it to be AAA. I think you're going to see that now be more of a AA or just basically the launching pad for a lot of these college students that might be on the fringe right now of getting a Korn Ferry Tour card, but because of the level of the Korn Ferry Tour, they're not able to qualify. Well, if you lower that a little bit with the smaller purses, that might allow some college, or people that are in their 40s getting ready to go on the Champions Tour, a place to play.
I think that's a very good point, too, and that could be the case. I thought Rory McIlroy said it best when he described the tour that's immediately above the Major League Tour as a glorified Korn Ferry, which is probably right because that's where you're going to see most of the individuals who do compete on the Korn Ferry level. Going to that upper level PGA Tour. Now, I'm interested to see what kind of tournaments they have, number one, and number two, what the galleries are for those tournaments.
It'd be very interesting. And then on another front, did you see where LIV Golf canceled their team competition, which was their big payday at the end of the year?
I did not see that.
Yeah, it was a $40 million purse. It was their literal team competition because in LIV Golf, they're on teams. So this particular tournament used to be a $50 million tournament. They reduced it to $40 million, and now they've canceled it altogether.
That's interesting. When did that occur?
Yesterday.
Yeah. See, the decision-making is going on every single day.
And now this is really getting to the weeds, so I'm sure people are now quickly turning off their radios. But the other thing you're going to have, if LIV Golf dissolves or if it becomes a much-reduced purse tour, you're going to see a flock of golfers trying to find their way back on to the PGA Tour.
But the question is, and you're right, and I'm sure that is going to happen, but how lenient will the PGA officials? Well, wait a minute, you snubbed us once.
Well, that's going to be interesting. Are you going to be more lenient for a DeChambeau than Lucas Herbert? Because who is the one that would be more popular with the galleries?
How about a guy like Dustin Johnson?
I don't think he cares. I mean, and I say that flippantly. He's made a lot of money. He's always said that he only wants to play a certain amount. That's why he went to LIV Golf, because they only had 14 events a year. I'm not sure, and he'd have to be getting close to 40 now, I believe, Ned.
Well, I think he's probably over that.
So I don't know how competitive he would even be, but somebody like a John Rahm, who went over there for $200 million, the PGA Tour would love to have him back, but you're going to have to find some level of treating all these people fairly. And there's been some PGA Tour members that did not leave for the money that suggested that anybody that came back from LIV should have to play a year on the Korn Ferry Tour and qualify.
Right, I would think that's a very legitimate request by them too. You do have those individuals, and it's the vast majority who stayed the course. Rahm, incidentally, is obviously trying to come back because he's playing in as many as he's allowed to play in.
He is, and he's playing on the DP Tour, which is a launching pad in a partnership with the PGA Tour, and he paid a huge fine from the DP Tour just so he would have the ability to play. So he's trying to find his way back.
Probably will, too, because he's a quality golfer. He is Spanish, I think, as most of you know. Spain is his native country, but it might as well be here because he went to college. I think Rahm is Arizona State, if I'm not mistaken.
And he still lives in Arizona.
And lives out there, yeah.
Right. But what is their competitive fire? I mean, that is something that is different with people. Some people play for money to survive. Some people play just to win. I always thought that Jack Nicklaus played to win the tournament. Tiger was like that too. Now, money comes as an afterthought to that, but at the same point, if you went over to LIV and played for 5 years and made $100 million, how hungry are you to come compete, especially if they tell you it's going to be on the Korn Ferry Tour playing in places like Springfield, Missouri?
That is a very cogent point on your part, because that's why those golfers joined LIV. They had a $100 million guarantee for each one of them?
It was different for each one, but John Rahm, I know, got $200 million.
$200 million. Where is your incentive? Now, the golfer in his conscience would say, it's right there. But in your subconscious, no, it's not either. I can sit back and take that money.
It's really easy to say I'm competitive. It doesn't mean that you don't think that you are, but are you hungry? Are you willing to go find it in the dirt, like Ben Hogan says? You don't get better playing golf by thinking about it. Trust me. You don't really get better by hitting it in the dirt if you hit it like I do. But you have to go out there and practice. This is their occupations. I don't think people realize how many hours a PGA Tour golfer spends on the golf course, not playing golf, but practicing.
I can remember a number of years ago, Major League Baseball had gone on strike. This may have been back in the early 70s. I can't remember which episode it was, but one enterprising reporter went to a pro golfer and said, is there any circumstance that you guys might go on strike? And the guy says, why? We're out here on our own. There's nobody paying the bills.
They are literal independent contractors. That is a true statement.
All right, we'll take a time out here on the starting lineup. Thank you for joining us. Back in just a second. And thank you for joining us on the starting lineup, and welcome back. I'm Ned Reynolds, along with
Dwight Glenn
and Guy Newcomb.
And indeed, starting lineup brought to you by Play It Again Sports, by Swing Right Golf, by Citizens Bank of Rogersville, and by Marshfield Chevrolet. Again, this is Guy's segment coming up, but before we go to Guy, I want you to go back into history, Dwight, just a little bit, because you made an interesting discovery today.
I stumbled across it on July 31st, 1997. This was the day that Mark McGwire was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals from the Oakland A's in exchange for T.J. Matthews, Eric Ludwig, and Blake Stein.
My God. Think about those players all involved. and what is their point of connection? We were all traded for Mark McGwire.
That's right. Well, Lou Brock. Remember the Lou Brock trade?
That one was a little misleading, yeah, for Ernie Broglio. But you have to remember that Ernie Broglio was coming off a tremendous year. I mean, he had a big time year with the Cardinals a year before, and the Cubs thought they were getting a real good deal, and it turned out not to be.
Well, and Lou Brock had been a little bit of a disappointment for the Cubs. You know, he was kind of a mediocre fielder, and he wasn't stealing bases at that point because the Cubs wouldn't let him run. But I think he was only hitting around 240 or 250 at the time of that trade.
If it was that high. That's interesting, too. Yeah, that all occurred. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. This is the segment that Guy Newcomb, representing the Missouri Sports Network, who is also doing the engineering today. This is your segment. What do you have for us, man?
Well, I tell you, it's kind of a dead week for us as well. You know, we cover a lot of stuff over the summer.
So that means you have nothing to talk about?
Well, no, no, we're getting ramped up right now. We're continually adding to our Missouri milestones, which has been a lot of fun, and it has blown up. We've got so much interest from around the state. You know, adding students from going back into the 50s and 60s.
Let's talk a little bit about that because we had your milestone founder and representative on the show. Forgotten his name now.
Kent Mueller.
And he was very good. He had piles of books and stats and all that in front of him when we had him on. You might tell me how that, or tell us, how the whole, the origin of the idea for having such a thing and how you do it. What happens?
Well, if you go to MSU, the MSU website, they'll have, let's say, just talking about basketball, they'll have the leading scores of all time, but they only have maybe 20 or 25, and they may have missed some that are in there. So we just started reaching out to athletic directors and coaches and just saying, hey, can you send us any kid that graduated from your high school that scored more than 1,000 points in their career? And that number went from about 30 to now we're over 4,000. It has, we've touched almost every high school in the state of Missouri. There are a lot of records that are unavailable. Maybe a coach moved and took the scorebooks with them in the 50s, or the school burned, or his house burned down, or something like that. So there's some that we just haven't been able to track down. But it's been a lot of fun. One thing that I still can't believe is Fred Johnson is still the all-time leading scorer in the state of Missouri in high school basketball when, I think he played 102 games. These kids now can play 120 or 130 games, and they have the three-point line. And so it just baffles me that 35-52 or 36-52 is still standing.
Unfortunately, I was absent that day when he was in. He was on the air here 2 weeks ago, I guess it was. And Freddie's a great guy, tremendous guy. But Guy makes a very good point. He is the all-time high school scoring leader. He took the place of his teammate, Billy Roundtree, and that was at Wellsville. You might tell the folks where Wellsville is. It's on the way to St. Louis.
It's somewhere up north of I-44, northeast of Rolla, I believe, or northeast of.
It's even beyond that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that's where he grew up, and then he played college, JUCO, and then played at Missouri State, and it was funny. I didn't know who he was, and then he started doing some camps and clinics around the state. Well, we had a trophy shop where we made trophies and things, and he came in and asked for little trophies. Well, my dad just donated to him, and we've been friends ever since then. But was looking through some of our pictures, and my dad had taken my little brother to a Missouri State Bears game in maybe 87 or 88.
He played for Spoon Hour, yes. Mm-hmm.
And Heath, my little brother, got to take pictures with any member of the team, and he picked Fred. So I've got a picture of my little brother with Fred Johnson, and that was pretty cool.
Fred played for Gene Bess at Three Rivers, and then came up here when Spoon recruited him, and recruited him quite interestingly because of his scoring potential. But he did his scoring, a very powerful player, but undersized for a center. And that's where he had to play him, as a very small forward or a center. And Fred's, about 6'4", 6'5", somewhere around there.
Yeah, he's probably my height, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And was very good, but just at that level of basketball, was not really able to manifest his physique that way. Still, nonetheless, great player, and his points still exist.
Yeah, and he still looks like he could play.
Oh, heavens, yes.
He's in great shape.
And probably wants to. I did see him about a month and a half ago at a Ozarks Lunkers game. So he's out there. I said, wait a minute, you're in the wrong sport, man. What is it? But he said, oh, no. Hey, I'm out here. It's all part of it.
For your milestones, are you focusing right now mainly on the scoring aspect of it, or are you doing rebounds, assists, or and the reason I asked that is because of what you mentioned earlier. First of all, especially assist, that's kind of the eye of the beholder. It'd be hard, for the accuracy. And I don't know how many of those schools in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s even kept their records because they probably thought nobody would even care.
Yeah, we have not gotten into that. And now in volleyball, we started a volleyball list as well. So we do keep assist, spikes or whatever, setters, things like that. We do keep those, or kills, I guess. No, I shouldn't say spikes.
Kills, yeah.
And then service aces, we have added that. We've got the president of the Missouri Volleyball Coach Association has joined us, and he has reached out and helped us get a lot of those numbers there. And then in football, yards from scrimmage, passing yards, rushing yards, touchdowns, things like that. We have but it's a labor of love from Kent, because I can't imagine what it's like to just compile that, because I've reached out and I'm getting so many emails back, and I just forward them to him, and he's got a spreadsheet, and he's a numbers guy. I mean, he was vice president of Commerce Bank when it opened in Kansas City 50 years ago, so he just loves numbers.
What is the circumstance in which the public can be presented? Is it a book fashion that you're putting it in, some kind of a manual, or is it all online?
It's all online, MissouriMilestones.com, or you can go to it. You can go to MissouriSportsNetwork.com, and there's a Missouri Milestones link there. There's interview links there as well. We cover all the colleges in the state of Missouri, so all of their scores will be going across as well, and then any interviews that we've done with high school students, high school coaches, college coaches, and then Darren Archer, he's kind of the president, CEO. He, along with Steve Alford, is a part of this, because Darren and Steve have got the relationship. They played together in Indiana, when they were kids, and so it's kind of a labor of love from all of us. It's folks that back, I can remember 2000, so I'm going to say 2006 or 7, when the newsletter quit putting scores in the paper.
Oh gosh, yes.
And that, I was a administrator, high school administrator. I'd go into the library every morning, grab that paper, look at the scores, see everybody had done. All of a sudden, they're gone. Like, what is going on? And the first call I made was to Jay Osborne. I said, Jay, where's your score? And he said, we're not putting them in anymore. They will not. They want us to go through all this automated stuff, type it in. He said it takes us 45 minutes, and if one number's wrong, it kicks us out. We've got to start over. He said, we're not doing it. We're just boycotting it.
How times have changed, and not necessarily for the best.
Well, I think it's disappointing, especially this is an area that high school sports have meant something on a different level than a lot of other areas, because this is a less urban area. We're not in Kansas City proper, St. Louis proper. So the people from Ava and, want to see the score of their football game on TV. And you used to do that. That's why you had
Friday night
6-7 minutes to do that. And, now they do it with the Ozark Sports Zone, which I realize it has its own place. But there is something that's kind of been lost as far as being able to keep track of what other people are doing. You were talking about golf earlier. They used to put in when somebody would get a hole-in-one. When Steve Cash passed away, we found the clipping in the Springfield News Leader where he had made a hole-in-one at Grandview. Remember Grandview?
Oh, heavens, yes.
Yeah, but just interesting things like that. It just seems, and maybe it's the loss of innocence, and we're all slaves to technology. That's how I found that Mark McGwire deal, of just looking through a baseball feed to see if there was any new information about trades, and it just pops up. So I don't know that being in the know all the time is the best thing in the world, but from a high school standpoint, I think what Guy does, and you might tell everybody what time your show will be on Friday nights when the high school football season begins. Yeah, we started, originally we were 10 to 11, and then the last couple of years we started at 9:30. Most of the games are over, by 9:30, so we can get those scores. And Mish has gotten a lot better with getting scores to their website and requiring coaches, especially in football, because there's a formula that determines their week 10, basically, what you're seeding in your district. They only have so many hours to get those in, or they get fined. So they're pretty good about getting those in. And we also had to add a half hour to it, because now we're covering the entire state. So I may interview the coach at Wentzville or Jackson, along with Nixa or Diamond or Fair Grove, and then you go up into Lee Summit and those areas, Staley. We've had those on. So it's the less I talk, the better on the deal. I've got a guy in Kansas City that is a score guy. We go back to the score desk, and he reads the scores, and I'm texting coaches, hey, call this number at this time. And then the coaches get on, and if I can get 8 or 10 coaches on, I don't have to talk as much as I've just spoke just now. Well, one question I do have, and this I'm reminded of this because of the World Cup, and I watched more soccer than I ever have in my life, because I was starting to find it interesting, and just seeing the passion that, the countries had for their teams. But one of the big points of conflict were the hydration breaks, which basically were paid advertisements. But having said that, in high school football, the last few years, because of how overwhelmingly hot it is when they start the season, I know they've been doing that. But what dictates when they have to have hydration breaks?
Well, there's an athletic trainer on the sideline has a bubble. It'll tell you what the heat index is, and once it gets above a certain point, then you have to take water breaks every 30 minutes. And it's very similar to with the lightning rule. You know, if lightning strikes, and they same thing, they've got a handheld deal, and if it strikes within miles, they're out for 30 minutes. So there's a lot of people on the sidelines controlling the football game that are not playing.
Thank you to the judges and the courtroom and the lawyers. There's lightning in the area. And what is the area? Well, it's 10 miles. What are the chances of anything happening in that? But, hey.
Oh, no, trust me now. You're talking to somebody that works for a venue and is involved with concerts that are outside and also with our band. And it's very dangerous. Any lightning within 5 to 8 miles of or air to ground strike, that's the rule that we will send people out of the venue, get our band off stage if we're performing, and then you have to wait 30 minutes, and there can't be another strike within 8 miles for another 30 minutes. So, you know, sometimes you're talking an hour, hour and a half, or 2 hours, because there's nothing worse on musical equipment, and people's bodies than water on the ground and lightning in the area.
Wouldn't it have to be pretty much a direct strike?
No, you'd be surprised, Ned, especially when you have that much equipment on stage. You know, and you can't risk that with the amount of people now that are going to places like Republic and Willard and you know, Nixa sells out their high school games, I think, almost every game. And you're probably talking 4,000 to 5,000 people. You have to safely get them at least to their cars in the parking lot. So you have to have an abundance of caution.
Have you, in your experience as a concert promoter and so forth, had that happen?
We just had it for a Trace Atkins concert down at Black Oak about 6 weeks ago.
Really?
8 weeks ago, we had to clear the venue twice and eventually cancel two of the other artists, and Trace finally started performing, I think, at 10:30. I think we had 600 people that might have come back in the venue, because not only was there lightning in the area, it rained about 2 inches in about 2 hours.
So the whole environment there is underwater.
Well, and you're in an amphitheater and everything runs downhill, Ned.
And it's all outside. There's no
correct.
No cover.
The stage is covered, but that's it.
Stages,
yeah. Sorry, we ventured off on a.
Well, you haven't either, because he covers the high school football. The stadiums are all covered.
Oh yeah, everything's in a dome.
Well, and before we go to break, I do have one more question. There's kind of been a facilities race now between all of these high schools. Are you seeing more and more schools, even on a smaller level, adding indoor facilities?
Oh, absolutely. You know, it kind of started. You go back. Maybe 20 years ago with Cashville, when Cashville had their tremendous run where they were going to, I think they went to 3 out of 4 state championship games there. They built the very first, I believe, indoor facility.
And it's right down at the end of their football field.
Yes,
too.
And it's nothing like what Republic's building, but it is an indoor facility. And then you kind of started to see that kind of grow, and then, you know, Webb City's got the dome, you know, that they can go inside of there. And then, of course, now you've got Nixa, and you've got I think Willard's building one, Ozark, and the Republic's is amazing.
Well, and I'm showing my ignorance, which is what I do on a daily basis, but I'm assuming that all these schools, this is not just being used by the sports programs. Is it bands? Is it, you know, other...
Well, that's the only way that the taxpayers will do it, is if they can say, hey, we're
so it's a multi-use
band
facility. We ought to make that clear, and people think we're just saying, no, it's just focused on football. That's not the case.
But it is a recruiting tool.
Oh, sure.
Well, the Ozark, and I'm sure the others all have encompassed this as well. You can use it as a baseball field. They've got netting in there and so
soccer.
forth. And soccer. Soccer is also...
Well, and I know some of them now are actually putting indoor golf simulators in the facility as well.
That is amazing. Is that right?
No, I'm not kidding.
And the simulators are, okay. Hey,
well, and here's the other thing, you know, and we'll talk about Swing Right. They have simulators. The technology is so amazing on those now that you can simulate playing Pebble Beach while you're sitting in Nixon, Missouri.
Have you done that?
I have not.
How do you play Pebble?
Well, would you rather play Pebble for $30 at Swing Right or pay $930 out at Pebble Beach?
Which is a very good point, because Pebble Beach is a public course.
It is, but you have to stay 2 nights in the lodge, which is about $1,000 a night, plus your green fee, plus you have to have a caddy.
The caddy is necessary out there.
They don't want you stumbling off a cliff, Ned.
Which could happen, and that is the site, if I'm not mistaken, of the U.S. Open next year.
It is.
Pebble Beach, my goodness. We'll take a quick time out, folks. Thank you for joining us. Back in a second. And those St. Louis Cardinals that Mike talked about will play tonight against the Blue Jays up at, the Rogers Center in Toronto. Great to have you with us on the starting lineup. Ned Reynolds along with
Dwight Glenn.
And Guy Newcomb.
And coming up in the next segment, of course, preview that next segment for us real quick, if you would.
Yeah, about 12 years ago, I'd reached out to Jeffrey Todd, who's one of the founders of Major League Baseball TradeRumors.com, and kind of made a reconnection here, and we're going to be visiting with Dara McDonald, who is just outside of Toronto, but very, very knowledgeable with what's going to happen here just a little bit.
That will be at 8 o'clock. We'll begin that interview and Dara will go over some of the possibilities as the trade deadline creeps in on us. In the meantime, however, we do have activity going on here. The Bears, football Bears, I was asked this question the other day, when they actually begin their drills. Well, they'll get together on Tuesday of next week, just as a little team meeting and so forth. Then they go out on the field and start the drills and get ready for, Texas A&M. Thank you.
But at least that creates a sense of it's better than getting ready for Portland State. I mean, at least you have a recognizable Division I legitimate power, at one of the most famous fields in the United States. I'm sure it will be televised on a major network of some sort.
Well, it is certainly on theirs. The Texas A&M and the teams in the Southeastern Conference have that very vast hookup that they have. So, yeah, there will be TV coverage.
Now, the one thing I remember you talking about specifically is back when SMS at the time went out, and did they not upset UNLV?
I was there. Art Haynes and I did the broadcast for that game from what they called the Silver Bowl. It was the name for an individual, and I've forgotten it. But, yeah, it was a very good football team. Coming off a couple of playoffs. No, I'm not coming off them. This would be the second year that they would make the Division I AA playoffs. And Nevada, Las Vegas had a very good team, very good team. Pretty good crowd, probably had about 17,000, 18,000 in attendance on a nice night in Vegas, but what night isn't nice out in Vegas? Anyway, the fact is the Bears went out there and won the game 34-27, I think the final score was. Was
it not the first ever overtime game in NCAA history?
That was the Bears in Oklahoma State.
Okay, I apologize. That's correct.
But the one with Nevada, Las Vegas was the first and for many, many years the only D1 victory that Missouri State had going for them. That's since changed. As a matter of fact, I think the big change in that, the second one may have been Marshall last year.
Now, you might mention this, since you were there for Oklahoma State, that was the first overtime game ever played in NCAA Division I history, correct?
It was 1996, if I remember correctly, down at what is now Boone Pickens Stadium. And Oklahoma State came out. It was a good game that the Bears had won. It would have been a massive upset. But, gosh, I remember late in the game, Southwest Missouri State had the lead over the Cowboys, and the fans were kind of grumbling and carrying on. Suddenly, Oklahoma State in the last few minutes came back, tied the game, and it went into overtime. The first year for overtime and the first game to go into overtime. So Southwest Missouri State kicked a field goal in that period, took a 3-point lead. Oklahoma State came back and got a touchdown and won the thing. We call it a moral victory as such, but be that as it may, we're going to arrive at our mid-show timeout in the meantime. Thank you very much for joining us, folks. We'll take a very brief mid-show timeout and then talk a little bit about what baseball is going to happen this weekend and from there on in. Don't go away. We have much more coming up.